Ladies, gentlemen, fellow Kryptonians out there, welcome to my Superman and Lois Season 3, Episode 11 recap, review, and breakdown. Now, this episode, I definitely feel like it pushed things along. I mean, to the point of where, as we all know, we've only got 2 episodes left, so the whole Peia storyline reached its peak. We had a lot pushed forward with Lois, and as we go into the last 2 episodes, we had quite the teaser at the end. And also, on top of recapping just this episode in general and giving my thoughts on it, I want to do a reaction to the promo for next episode because I'm hearing, and as what we expect anyway, it's got something to do with Lex Luthor, so I want to chuck in the typical kind of promo breakdown, but also with watching it along with you guys. So go on to like this video if you do enjoy it. I'd really appreciate that. It just helps out a bunch, as I always say. It really does. You guys boosted up the views for last week's review, so thank you so much for that. For those of you who help with the engagement in the video, and of course, leave your comments and theories down in that comment section. So right at the beginning, picking up with the police responding to Peia's somewhat sound distractions, if you will, and the police are just like, these fake sound attacks keep happening, and Superman is working on it, and that's the whole thing, right? Peia is somewhat sending out these distractions to everyone in the city because Bruno and Matteo and Peia want to, I think he was saying, live on the beach halfway around the world somewhere. So fair enough, and they don't want the police to apprehend them, so they want to get out of there. Meanwhile, with Lois, we have her at the hospital preparing for her surgery, but this is where, with what's going on with Peia, it becomes quite disruptive, which is when we get that storyline with Kyle. I did enjoy his reaction to seeing Clark as Superman, even reminiscing over how he appreciated him not lasering his ass that time he pantsed him in gym class, because yeah, Clark would have had to have put up with quite a lot in high school when he could have just gone like that and flicked somebody, I don't know, 1,000 miles away. So Kyle was kind of one of those jackasses in high school, even though things are a little bit different right now. But this is when we go into that storyline with Chrissy, which again, I don't really have too much to say. It's not that I didn't like it or dislike it at the same time. It's just more, okay, you know, he's mad that she didn't tell him a secret that wasn't hers to tell, and he wises up to that towards the end of the episode. So that's all there really is to say about it. Now, we can't forget that Lois and Lana arranged this somewhat Bazumba's meal, so this is when we have Lois and Clark arrive to Lana's, and they have the wings from Bazumba's, and it's, you know, cheering up Lois to the point of where she feels really ready for this surgery. But we also have another kind of drama storyline going on this episode, and that is, of course, picking up on what we had with Sarah and Jordan. He says that he meant everything he said in the last episode. I think he said, "I regret ever falling in love with you," and whatnot. So this is still cooking along, and it somewhat propels Sarah down into quite a depressive episode. So as a result, in this episode, Kyle and Lana are pretty worried about her given her past with mental health, so they, you know, for the rest of the episode, try and make sure that she's okay. She's feeling a lot of pressure at the minute with the DUI and how it stays on her record for like 5 years. What does this mean for college? Long story short, again, not so much to say here, just kind of revisiting the drama between Jordan and Sarah, Sarah's mental health, and what she can do about that, to the point of where it culminated with her getting a job at the Smallville diner. I don't know really where this is going to go. Is Sarah and Jordan going to become friendly again? But that would feel like a bit of revisiting what we've had before. Jordan's a bit salty about things. Oh, no, but they're friends. But then he can't really deal with that, and now they're not friends. So are they just going to become friends again? But how will history not repeat itself again? I don't know. I don't know. Now, the next moment was pretty cool because when we had Lois just about to go into her surgery, we have all the doctors around her, the surgeon. We have Jordan start to freak out. And initially, I thought this was a panic attack, but it turned out it was something else entirely, because when Clark comes over, we have Jordan's powers start to glitch. And he's like, I can't close my eyes. And even though his eyes were closed, well, that's because he could still see with his eyes closed because this X-ray vision was coming in. And I thought that was really awesome, because powers coming in for the first time, it would kind of freak you out if you're just like this and you can see freaking people give birth to triplets, as he said later on in the episode. So I wonder if and why they're bringing in these powers right now. Could it contribute to the last couple of episodes? Could this power come in handy? Of course, I think we all expected this power to come in at some point, but you have to think maybe they're bringing it in now for it to become somewhat key in the final couple of episodes. Maybe do with Bizarro Superman. Maybe there's something that Jordan does with his X-ray vision that, serves for something greater. I also really enjoyed Jonathan calming him down. Also just saying, Jordan, like don't get me wrong, I'm sure it's kind of hard to deal with all of this coming in, but you should be grateful, man. You're getting a superpower. And in moments like this, I do appreciate Jonathan being, and I know a lot of people want him to have powers, but I don't mind it so much. But in moments like this, I'm like, God, man, if only this guy had powers. Now, up next, we have Natalie go to Bruno Mannheim's office, somewhat looking for Matteo. And towards the end of that scene, we actually see her leave a device just in case Matteo came back. But we had John Henry fly in. And this conversation kind of went as follows, with her saying, what he did wasn't that bad. But I kind of agree with John Henry here, saying, well, tell that to the DOD. All the people of Metropolis who are scared because of what Matteo unleashed on this world. And we didn't have a death count at the end. That's if people even died, with Peia unleashing around the city. But it is really, 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 really bad. But I do see the multifaceted is one of my favorite words to use, but it's true situation to this. Matteo had a chance to give the cure to his mother, and I think maybe a lot of people would do the same thing in his position. But yeah, at the same time, Peia did basically almost blow up the DOD with her powers, and then subsequently Metropolis in this episode. So what he did, you can understand, but what was a result of his actions is, I wouldn't say it wasn't so bad at the same time. But this is when we go back to Peia, Bruno, and Matteo, and she really can't contain her powers, and she unleashes it everywhere, causing a power cut across the city. This makes Lois and Clark maybe reevaluate the surgery a bit, but Lois is pretty adamant to see it through. Bruno in this moment is like, right, okay, she needs another dose of the cure. It seems to kind of stabilize her for a second, but then she loses control again, so Bruno's just like, okay, get her another vial. And as Bruno's top guy is about to do that, we have Peia somewhat reach out and say no, and this guy goes splat, like The Boys style. I'm sure if you've seen The Boys, or to be honest, many other shows, this really reminded me of that, which is kind of surprising. Like this moment, I suppose it could have been more graphic. For example, in The Boys, it 100% is. You kind of see a lot more detail of the body exploding, but they still went there. And I don't think, have we ever seen anything like that on the CW before? I'm not sure if we have. Now, at this point, Peia essentially concedes. She's saying to Bruno, it's over. You can't save me. Bruno is absolutely devastated. We have Peia kind of unleashing everywhere. She's kind of like a ticking time bomb, and she leaves, and as we know, goes out into Metropolis a little bit later. And this is when that lab also starts caving in. So at this point, Lois is going into surgery. Clark is going back to the DOD because it's basically all hands on deck right now with Sam Lane, the DOD, John Henry, and Superman to find Peia and stop what's happening, because obviously this could absolutely destroy Metropolis. We also had Matteo want to go and get help as well, so it seemed like he wanted to go find a phone, so he goes up into his father's office, but that's when the little device informs Natalie that Matteo is there. So she flies in, and they only have like a couple of seconds before we have John Henry fly in, and I almost forgot to mention as well, this is when Bruno came in right before John Henry came in, and we had that moment where John Henry was like this close to kind of giving into the dark side. I have to say, Will A. Parks, who plays John Henry, I feel like he does a really, really good job with his performance on just kind of barely holding back his anger when he's just completely loaded with the hammer. By this time, we have Peia on the streets of Metropolis, and it is essentially sending earthquakes out everywhere. Even with Lois's surgery, we have the surgeons freaking out, even saying, do everything you can to keep the patient stable. And you have to think about it, like with Lois shaking around on the operating table like that, it must be extremely hard to perform a very delicate surgery like that. So I have no idea how they ended up doing it. I mean, I know we had Jordan come in, and speaking of X-ray, coming in this episode, how could it be handy? Well, I kind of forgot that he actually, looked in the room and stopped that thing from falling over. But anyway, now, bottom line with Peia, we have Superman managed to locate her. I also really like this moment in general for like a Superman moment, because he's approaching Peia, who is, not exactly the greatest person. Like, don't get me wrong, within her family, she seems like very loving, but yeah, we all know what Peia's done. She could easily and has intentionally almost, well, tried to kill people. But Superman still treats the situation with compassion. As he's trying to approach her, he says, it's okay. They wouldn't want you to suffer. It's okay to let go. So when he actually gets towards her, he actually holds her. And in this moment, she whispers into his ear, and then he flies her into the sky to somewhat self-destruct. And obviously that ended up killing her. And then he returns Peia's body back to Bruno, and Matteo says that she wanted me to tell you that she'll love you both forever and always. And they break down. And, I guess that's the Peia threat over, and especially with regards to Bruno Mannheim now. I suppose this could be it for Bruno, because I was thinking if Lex came in, could he actually end up killing Bruno? Because after all, it was him and Peia who framed him to go to jail. Obviously, Lois helped put that out there, but the first people you would have thought he'd be after would be Bruno Mannheim, right? But the thing is, with what we see with Bruno next, will Lex still go after him? Maybe not, because I guess he's going to be behind bars now, because as we see in a few scenes later, he is going to tell them everything and cut a deal on the condition of dropping Matteo's charges. So maybe Lex will be happy that now he's just spending time in jail and his sights will just kind of be adjusted onto Lois Lane and Clark Kent. And in this moment, at the very end of the episode, I was like, okay, well, what's going to happen with Bizarro Superman? And then, lo and behold, we actually got a scene addressing that. So we cut back to the caved-in lab, and Bizarro Superman is walking around, but this is when he stops, and he starts freaking out. And I feel bad for Bizarro Superman because, say what you will about Season 2, but when we had him in it was really cool because he is an inverse Clark, and he seemed like a alright guy. But now he's been subjected to all of this experimentation, and in this moment, you just saw his skin rippling, his eyes glowing blue, even a tear. I don't know if you noticed that, guys, like a tear like rolling down from his eyes. So yeah, his hands were rippling, and he started to get these little bumps over it, as well as his face. I guess that infers that he's transforming into something, possibly a much larger threat for the final episodes, which, again, is this going to coincide with Lex Luthor getting released from prison? I don't know. I mean, as we've heard, Lex Luthor was meant to be a larger Season 4 villain, so maybe he's just going to be quite the latter tease, and Bizarro Superman's going to kind of be the end game of this season with just a bonus Lex moment cliffhanger added onto it. But I have to say, that scene got me excited for the final episodes, and I do feel like this episode, all while it was quite smooth sailing moving forward, looking back on it, I have enjoyed this season a lot, but, now we've kind of got to the peak of what feels like Bruno and Peia's story, with Peia now gone, Bruno, admitting all of his crimes in order to, have Matteo free of any charges that would be brought against him. It's like, oh, okay. I guess that's over now. It's like we're on to the next thing. So I do feel like it's now obviously got to the point where it's like, okay, hopefully the last two episodes are going like sky high with Superman and Lois action, and it does seem to be that way. So let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Did you feel like, you were entertained at points like me, but overall it just kind of felt... it's like, okay, there's a few in-between scenes there, which, I'm sure some people out there really love the Carl storylines and the Sarah storylines, but I know a lot of you are just kind of like, yeah. And then when we got to the main stuff, it was like, okay, well, Peia's self-destructing, need to kind of sort that. I guess they want to invoke quite a bit of empathy from the audience here with this culmination of events at the peak of this Bruno and Peia storyline. But, I do get it. It's, as I said, when we see peeks into their family, you see, and her scenes with Lois in the hospital, like all throughout the season, it's like, okay. But then you've seen the other side, and it's just like, I've got to this point of where it's like, well, I don't feel like that bad about how things went down. I mean, I'm not inhuman here, but... it's like it is what it is now. And I'm just kind of looking forward to the Bizarro stuff and the Lex Luthor stuff. So let me know what you think about that. But let's now get into the promo of next episode. So what I'm going to do is read out the synopsis, and then we're going to watch it together, and I'm going to give my initial thoughts on what we see. And the reason why I'm doing it this way is because, as you can tell, I'm quite excited for Michael Cudlitz's Lex to come in right at the end of this season. And I swear to God, if he's like as good as what I'm hoping, and we don't get a Season 4, Oh, the saltiness that I will feel. All right, Superman and Lois, Season 3, Episode 12, the penultimate episode, I believe titled Injustice. The synopsis is Lois and Clark clash with Jordan over his carelessness around using his powers in public, while Jonathan struggles with Kyle's change in behavior at the firehouse. Meanwhile, Sarah... I wonder, by the way, just interjecting here, is Kyle going to treat Jordan differently now, knowing, oh god, I got Superman's kid, I'm going to maybe have to give him special treatment? I can imagine it's like a typical story like that where Jonathan won't want special treatment. I don't know. Meanwhile, Sarah grows frustrated with Lana after she accidentally makes things more complicated with Jordan. I wonder if she's going to butt her head in saying, can you just make up with my daughter because, she's not in a great place right now. Trying to look out for Sarah, but inadvertently, that's putting your nose into business that, I'm sure Sarah won't appreciate, even if she was trying to help. And I know this is so typical, I just wouldn't be surprised. And finally, after 17 years behind bars, Lex Luthor is set to be released from prison. So let's now have a look at the promo.
I'm one of the people Lex blames. What Peia said about him being the devil, she's right.
Flashback.
Let me explain to you how things are going to work around here. What happens next?
I like the demeanor already.
But your time is running out.
The next is up to you, but your time is running out. Okay, a very quick promo, as per usual, on the CW. So let me quickly scan back through this. But as I've said, we've already had a Lex promo before, and I always had a good feeling about Michael Cudlitz because, I've seen him in prior roles. I'm sure a lot of us saw him in The Walking Dead. And now just hearing his voice, I already said that I expect this really commanding presence that I feel, fair enough if you did, because this always seems to annoy people, I didn't get from the Supergirl Lex. This is what I envision with a Lex demeanor. Or say what you will about Titans, but I really do feel like Titus Welliver's Lex gave off a similar vibe here, where he's a human, but it's like he commands such, a presence around him. And again, Cudlitz seems to be giving us that as well. So at the beginning of the promo, we hear Lois say, I'm one of the people that Lex blames. What Peia said about him being the devil, she's right. And over that, we see the footage of him outside this prison here. And I wonder if this scene is a flashback to when Lois, helped put him away. Because as I'm scrolling through it, he gets that last glance at her, hence the line over the trailer at this point with what Lois is saying. Lex is, giving her this look. He won't forget how she contributed to him going to prison. So you could argue this is present day, given that, he's not guilty of what he got put away for, and now how Bruno will admit to everything, framing him. So you could argue this could be him getting out, but ultimately, the reason why I don't believe that and why I suspect it's a flashback is because he's bald when he gets out of prison, because he shaved his hair during his time, as we saw in the other promo. So it kind of makes sense that this is in the past with, clearly as well, a Lois Lane in younger reporter mode. We then see some scenes of him in prison here, and he says, let me explain to you how things are going to work around here. What I really like about that is we could be seeing, and I don't know how much we're going to get of this. Is it going to be like a normal episode where we've seen it before in Superman and Lois every now and again, like the 17-year flashbacks to Lois and Clark at the Daily Planet a couple of episodes back, where we kind of go back periodically throughout the episode. We might see him rise to the top in the prison system. And we even see him standing by someone who clearly isn't a prisoner. So maybe, as what we see with the guards here in the background doing something to the inmates, he could be, allied with them. He could be on top of all the other prisoners. But the thing is, I do believe up next we see Lex getting beat by some guards, some prison guards. So I think what we're going to see there is potentially this interesting journey, seeing how he went from this to what you're seeing on screen right now to actually controlling all of the guards. And then it ends with him saying, what happens next is up to you, but your time is running out. And again, if he's getting beat by prison guards here, this is before he shaves his hair like we saw in the other promo, which I'm probably showing on screen right now. So yeah, not too much else to break down there, but obviously I think we're going to get 17-year flashbacks to Luthor's initial time in prison, see him grow in the ranks of the prison system, maybe garner a lot of respect, control a lot of people. But I think, aside from everything we've been saying here, I think we're going to see this introspection that he has and this seething attitude he has about those who put him away. That would be really cool to get that insight. Like, not only him rising above and beyond in the prison system, but also a little glance at how he's feeling about the people who put him away. So I really enjoyed that promo. Really looking forward to the next episode. I suspect we're going to get the flashbacks in next episode, possibly at the very end of episode 12, the penultimate episode. He actually gets out, and then in the finale, when all of this Bizarro clashing stuff is happening, well, we could have Lex turn up in person. I wonder if the cliffhanger could even be a knock at the door saying, "Oh, hi, Miss Lane," and it's actually him there. I have no idea, though. That is complete random speculation. I don't even know if that's going to happen, but yeah, I do wonder what that cliffhanger could be. All right, everyone, that is everything I've got to say this week, so let me know your thoughts down in the comments below about this episode, your theories going into next episode, but also general theories for the last couple of season 3. If you like this video and you got this far, I'd really appreciate it if you remember to like it now. That would help out a bunch. Maybe consider subscribing as well if you've been watching week to week and you enjoy news, reviews, updates. I've done a couple of news videos the past couple of days, so check those out as well. But until next time, guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you fellow Kryptonians in the next video. Goodbye.